Alright, I'm going to show another few miscellaneous details. This is an area just north of the northeast of the San Francisco Bay Area. This is Concord Airport and Byron, a non-tower airport over here. Concord's a tower airport and Byron's a non-tower. You can tell by the blue color and the magenta color. And I'd like to take a look at the airport data blocks. For Concord Airport, it says the name Buchanan is actually what they call it, and the identifier is CCR. And then the data block shows CT for control tower, frequency for the control tower 119.7, and designates that that's the common traffic advisory frequency when the control tower closes, with a C after that frequency. And then the star designates that the frequency is part-time, or that the tower is not open 24/7, like San Francisco Tower is. And then there's a second tower frequency that may be used when the airport gets exceptionally busy. It's 123.9, but that's not the common traffic advisory frequency you'd use at night when the airport's closed and you're self-announcing. I mean, when the tower is closed and you're self-announcing. And then underneath that line, they list the ATIS frequency, the Automated Terminal Information System, 124.7. The next line is the elevation of the airport, 26 feet. They have an L after that, which means that the airport's lighted sunset to sunrise. And then they have a 50, which is the length of the longest runway in hundreds of feet, so 5,000-foot runway for the longest one. And then they do list the Unicom 122.95, and this is not the frequency that you would self-announce at night like you would at a non-tower airport. It's not the same Unicom. This is the frequency you typically order fuel on. And then over to Byron Airport, we'll go and read its data block. It's a non-tower airport. Byron's also listing its name and its identifier Charlie 83. It has an AWAS, an automated weather system, the third level AWAS, the best one, and the frequency 123.775 megahertz. It lists the airport elevation as 79 feet. It's lighted also, but there's a little star in front of the L, which means lighting limitations exist, and the notes in the chart legends say see airport facility directory, but normally when there's a star L, it means that it's pilot controlled lighting and you key your microphone 5 times quickly to turn on the lights at the airport, and then they stay on for 15 minutes and then a timer shuts them off. 4,500 feet is the length of the longest runway. The common traffic advisory frequency is 123.05, and there's a right pattern for runway 5 and for runway 30, and then by default the other runways would be left traffic, runway 12 and runway 23. And then a few other items to note on the charts are, you might have already figured out any area in yellow is a congested area or a city, and pilots have to maintain at least 1,000 feet above the highest obstacle within 2,000 feet horizontal of any kind of structures in congested areas. So if you see yellow in the chart, make sure you're flying a bit more than 1,000 feet above ground level, depending on what kind of city you're flying over. If you do have towers to clear in that city, you have to clear those as well. So here's some stacks in Antioch, and the numbers here are showing the altitude of the top of the obstruction in MSL, in mean sea level. So 397 feet in that case. If there's a difference between the MSL and the AGL, then the top number on the obstruction will be the MSL value, like this one says 459, and the bottom is the AGL, 450. And if I want to make sure I said that right, the top number is MSL, the bottom number is AGL. And then there are also maximum elevation figures, and this 42 is actually designating 4,200 feet for the maximum elevation of terrain in this quadrangle, which is kind of a complicated term, but I'll zoom out a little bit to try to see the quadrangle. Okay, it's a little bit hard to see on the video probably, but a quadrangle is 15 minutes of latitude by 15 minutes of longitude. So the longitude-latitude lines make out a grid pattern. In this case, from this corner up here, over here, down here, and then back again. And this 4,200 feet, what that's designating is that that gives you an altitude that's at least 300 feet over the highest obstacle inside that square. And the highest obstacle in that square, I'll zoom in a little bit again, is Mount Diablo. And the chart legends don't say this, they just say their maximum elevation figures. But if you actually do the calculations, Mount Diablo's peak altitude is 3,849, and then you round that up to 3,900 feet, and then add 300 feet additional to that, and then you get 4,200 feet for an altitude that would give you at least 300 feet of altitude clearance over all the obstacles in that quadrangle. And the next thing I'm going to do is point out that a special feature of SkyVector is if you have this little box checked that says show weather. Most of these charts I haven't had that box checked. You can see the weather, and right now the weather at Oakland Airport, you just click on the little colored dot. Oakland Airport, they're providing you with a METAR and with a terminal aerodrome forecast. So right now Oakland has 10 miles visibility, sky clear, temperature 7, dew point 4, and the altimeter setting and so on. And then there's a forecast in the terminal aerodrome forecast as well. And if you choose an airport like Concord that doesn't have a terminal aerodrome forecast, it just gives you the METAR, the current weather, what their ATIS is reporting. And here it says 5 miles visibility and mist, sky clear, and temperature 4, dew point 3. And then I think the weather gets worse as we go out into the Central Valley because it's wintertime and they probably have some fog layers forming. So I'll scroll up a little bit. Yeah, here's Travis Air Force Base, has a quarter-mile visibility with fog and vertical visibility 100. That means that the obscuration to visibility is surface-based, and you can't really measure a ceiling because the ceiling's on the ground. So 100 feet is how far you can see up into the fog. So if you were in an airplane, you could see the ground at 100 feet, and if you're on the ground, you can see an airplane at 100 feet. But if the airplane's at 200 feet, you wouldn't be able to see it. And then the last items I'm going to show, for those who may want to travel to Los Angeles at some point, this is the terminal area chart for Los Angeles, and you can see some of these unusual magenta double-headed empty arrows, and they're showing you VFR transition routes through the Class Bravo airspace. For most of them, you still need to get a clearance from air traffic control like SoCal Approach, and they're just showing you the paths that they'd like you to take through the Bravo airspace, and they give you several choices like the coastline route and the Hollywood Park route and so on. I'll show you more detail about those in a moment. And there's even a route called the Special Flight Rules Area for Los Angeles that you can fly through the Bravo airspace surface area without a clearance from air traffic control and just self-announce to other aircraft. So to see more detail about this, it's obvious that the little boxes say see inset for requirements, and the inset is over here to the left of us. So I'm going to go to that point so you can see that. We were zoomed in right there on LAX, and then all of the insets are over here on the left side. So I'm going to drag that over and then just read it to you real quick so you know what's there. They have the Coliseum route, the Hollywood Park route, the mini route, and the coastal route, and then lastly, all those which would require clearance from air traffic control. And then the last one, the Los Angeles Special Flight Rules Area, is down here at the bottom, and I'll zoom in on that one. So this gives you a lot of detail. Like to fly this route, you use the Santa Monica VOR 132-degree radial. And if you were flying to the southeast, the only altitude you can use to transition to Bravo airspace is 3,500 feet MSL. If you were going to the northwest, the only altitude you could use is 4,500. And it lists the frequency for air-to-air to announce to other aircraft your position, just like you were at a non-tower airport on a common traffic advisory frequency. It's 128.55 megahertz. So that's the last item I wanted to go over. I hope you've enjoyed the airspace presentation, and have a good night.